Welcome back. Thank you for clicking. Today we are looking at the F in a two-independent t-test. So remember that F is formulating the problem, which includes population, sample, variable, parameter of interest, and when you're doing a hypothesis test, it also includes the null and alternative. Now for this type of data, and we've looked at how it's set up, because you have two independent groups, that means each group will have their own sample mean, their own parameter, their own sample size, their own standard deviation. All of those things are specific to the group. And so when you're doing these problems, it's really important to organize yourself and to know which group is going to be group 1 and which is group 2. Sometimes you're told that information, and sometimes you have to make those decisions on your own. But ultimately, you need to keep all of the measurements for group 1 with group 1, and same for group 2. So then they would have their own population descriptions, their own sample descriptions, and then inevitably their own parameter definitions. So you will have a mu1 and a mu2. They will be exactly the same except for the population. So it's the same variable. You always start with mean, but then the second part is going to be the population 1 for mu1 and population 2 for mu2. Now the last part of formulating the problem is writing the null and alternative. We always will have the same null just to keep it simple in this class. So we have H sub O is mu1 equals mu2, but there are three options for the alternative. Now an alternative that asks for a difference, so is there a difference between population mu1 and population mu2, would have an alternative of mu1 does not equal mu2. And remember, we call that a two-tailed test. Now, in this data, just like we had with the paired data, the order of subtraction and the direction of the alternative is going to be very dependent on one another. So the option 2 and option 3 here are one-tailed tests or our right and left-tailed tests, but choosing those are going to depend on if it says fewer, if it says greater, if it says more or less, all those words that point to a direction. One thing that helps me sometimes is to write which is the big and which is the little, and then decide on what would be the order and if it's going to be a negative or positive difference. See you in future videos.